Good morning, students. Today we are going to start our new chapter, that is chapter number 4, possibilities. So, this is your chapter, possibilities. First, we will start with the coming of the artificial intelligence. This word artificial intelligence came in the year 1956 after the Dartmouth conference. Before the Dartmouth conference, no one was thinking that it will become a reality. So before 1956 means the first half of the 20th century, it was all there in the movies, depicted as an imaginary thing. So if we talk about the first half of the 20th century, that is 1910, 1920, 30, 40, before 1950, so the world was being introduced to artificial intelligence, but that was only in the movies, science fiction movies. So there they were portrayed as robots with human-like characteristics, and these types of robot which poses human-like characteristics are called humanoid robot. They are called humanoid robot. The journey of movies in the world of artificial intelligence is started with the movie The Wizard of Oz. And in the movie The Wizard of Oz, there was a heartless teen man, and he was somehow depicted as a real man. So that was the first time the movies started depicting humanoid robots. Then one more humanoid robot came in the movie, that is Metropolis, and the name of the robot was Maria. Maria was a total look-alike of human, and that was the first time a look-alike of woman was depicted as a robot. So here the robot actually impersonated Maria. Now, when we talk about the Hollywood movies, we had two movies. Now, for Bollywood also, nowadays we are getting movies. I think you all remember this movie, The Robot movie, where our robot was there. His name was Chitti. Okay. Now, what is the history of AI and how we are using it? Over these years, after 1956 when it came into existence, so over these years, AI has done so many things. First of all, our work which was time consuming, this is getting automated. For example, sending of messages, it is getting automated. Giving reply, it is getting automated. So AI has now automated our time consuming task, and it has helped us gain access to the data. That big data which is very large in thousands and thousands of TB, now we can work on that data through rapid pattern recognition, and this has become possible only because of AI. Now using different AI tools like Hadoop, Spark, Apache Hive, we can save that data and we can work on that data to get information. That is only possible now because of the AI. These AI powered machines are everywhere. They are in the Google's search algorithm. Whenever we want to search anything, the Google gives us suggestions based on the AI, that is natural language processing. We can find AI in the IBM Watson, the answer giving tool. This is the sign of IBM Watson. And nowadays the autonomous weapons which can fire themselves, weapons which can find the enemy themselves, These autonomous weapons are also there and they are also powered by AI. Nowadays, the American army is deploying these types of robot to fight in the war. They are totally autonomous. They can fire themselves, they can go to enemy places themselves. So no need of any person to handle them through a remote. Previously we were using these devices, but these devices were handled by a person who was using remote. Nowadays no use of remote is needed. They can think themselves. So we have used AI in everywhere, but there are some limitations. One thing is human emotion that we are not able to give to the robots. Humans get sad, they get angry, they get happy. These are the human emotions, love, care. These we are not able to give to the robots. One more thing is creativity. Creativity is a challenge with the robots. They cannot do painting, they cannot fill colors, so they are not creative. They cannot do a new thing. Whatever is given, they are able to do. So human emotion and creativity are something unique abilities that we humans only possess. If not possible, if not impossible, means it is not impossible, might be in future we will be able to give these capabilities to robot also. But right now we are not able to provide this to the robots. AI has transformed the way we live. If we talk about the human beings 20 or 30 years before, we were not using AI based machines, AI based tools. Now AI has occupied a very significant place in our lives, and it has very easily, very cleverly, very subtly become an indispensable part of our lives. Nowadays we are using them. Google search engine, we are using smart TV, we are using smart mobiles. So it has become an indispensable part of our lives. This all pervasive technology means that is available everywhere is now being increasingly used for so many things. I think you all know about these things. For mapping we are using them. For example, Google Maps, we use them. Navigation, we use them. For example, driverless car. Here also we have AI. Enabling search predictions in Google search engine. We have the AI. Streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, they also use AI based systems to give suggestions to their customers based on their preferences. Aiding weather forecast, nowadays satellites are having AI based systems. These systems take pictures of the atmosphere and then in very less time they try to predict the weather condition. So weather forecast, voice activated digital assistants like Google Home, also called Nest, we have Cortana, we have Siri, we have so many other voice activated digital assistants. So we have Apple's Siri, we have Amazon's Alexa, all of these are there. Now when we talk about the focus of AI research, the money is getting invested in AI research, but we are mainly concerned about the devices, about the software. So our focus of research into AI is mostly restricted to applications. Creating Google Maps, creating search predictions in Google, giving suggestions to the customers in streaming services like Netflix or Amazon Prime. We are trying to create guiding airplanes, those planes which can work on themselves, also called UAV, unmanned aerial vehicles. We are designing missiles which can work themselves. For example, Israel's Iron Dome or S-400 of Russia. These are also using AI technology. We are using AI to understand the language. That is Google Translate. We are using it for diagnosing medical conditions. For example, IBM Watson is used in medical industry. We are using it to detect credit card or debit card frauds or online frauds. So we are just concerned about making different types of applications which can help us. But computer engineers are constantly trying to develop those types of machine learning algorithm or programming algorithm to make computers think. That is the most important thing. If the computers are able to think like human beings, in future we will be having good benefit from them. We can take more benefit from them. So they are trying to make the computers think like human beings. This capability still we are not able to give them. So we are mainly concerned about their applications, their usage, but engineers want them to think so that in future we will be able to have our so many work using robots. This one AI fact file which is given. There is a very popular show in America, that is Jeopardy. It is a very popular quiz show, Jeopardy, where this person he usually asks the question and there are three people who give the answers. So these two were the two person who were quiz masters, means who were giving the answers promptly, who were the winners of this show Jeopardy. This show Jeopardy, there were the winners of this show Jeopardy. And in 2011 the IBM company took a challenge that my IBM Watson, my IBM's supercomputer IBM Watson will be able to defeat or beat these two quiz masters. So that was known as the Jeopardy, the IBM challenge. So the match started. In the beginning, these two quiz masters were winning, but because of this, machine having advanced machine learning capabilities, means in the starting it was learning, the answers from Ken and Brad. It was learning how they give answer, how they get the question. So in the starting it was not winning, but as the time passed it was able to learn. Machine learning capabilities are there to help machine learn. So it was able to process the natural language, the words used by the person who was asking the questions and the answers given by Ken and Brad. It was now able to reason, and whatever knowledge it gained from the answers of Ken, Brad and the questions of the person who was asking the question, it was able to retrieve the knowledge also. So at the last, Watson won. So this tells us that now we have achieved so many things in artificial intelligence that in future might be we will have robots answering so many of our questions. They will be able to retrieve or get knowledge from their heuristics, from their memory. They will be able to reason and they will be able to easily process our language. Now when we talk about the research in AI, we all know that the research in AI started with the Dartmouth conference. So there are some phases. The scientists have seen some phases, some time frames, that from this time to this time and from this time to this time, a major breakthrough happened. So they have classified it into three phases and now we are in the fourth phase. So the fast evolving focus on AI research. The first phase. The first phase we all know started at the Dartmouth conference in America. In the Dartmouth conference, the scientists developed a technique. The scientists developed a technique that is called general problem solver. So this general problem solver was developed, that was to solve the problems of the people. Okay, it was developed at the Dartmouth conference and it is regarded as the first computer program which is based on AI. So in 19 56 we had the conference, and in the conference after 3 years 1959 we had this general problem solver. It was developed by Herbert A. Simon, J.C. Shaw and Alan Newell. So in the starting it was able to solve the problems. Now what they were doing in GPS? Researchers assumed that any problem could be solved by using mathematical models, means changing the question into mathematical equation and then changing the question into a program code. So first the computer was asked to play match with a human being. In the starting the computer was not able to win, like for example IBM Watson was also not able to win. Now computer was learning, oh, this time this happened and actually this human being does this. So likewise slowly they were able to learn. Okay, so the computer was saving data of the works done by the human who is playing the match, means the moves of the human being who is playing the match. So after suppose 1000 matches or 2000 matches, the computer had a very big memory. So it saved all the moves, thousands or 2000s or 3000, 4000 moves were saved by the computer. Now after that the computer was having a good memory, good knowledge of moves. Now after that if someone was trying to play, it started searching for a solution, searched until a solution was found. So now the computer was able to play the match. So after, we usually also do the same thing. We learn from someone, we see someone playing, and after so many times we have played with them, we learn the things. Likewise, because of the machine learning, the computer was also able to learn. The computer saved all of the moves in its memory, and then when it was trying to play a match with someone, it tried to search for a solution from its computer data. Now what they were doing like this. For example, they changed the whole chess board into mathematical equation. So here we have the A, B, C, D like this 8. So every part can be named. So it is A4, it is B4. So it was easy for the computer to remember. So when the human being was in B4, so it did this. So I can also do this. So and one more thing, the boards were converted here, and the players, those who are playing, these are the chess pieces had some conditions. For example, this one can go like this only, 2.5, so 2 like this and 1 like this. So all of these things were saved, that it can go only two way, plus and then right or left. So likewise it was saved. So suppose B4 is here and it is having this one, this piece is here and it has to go. So now computer knows that it can go like this, and it can go either like this or like this. So everything was saved in the computer. It showed significant benefits initially. It was very easily able to play chess match with human beings. But after that, after some time, the approach was discontinued. I will tell you the reason why it was discontinued. So let's come to the second phase. The GPS was deemed unfit for solving real life problems. Playing a chess is very easy, but when it came to the real life problems, it was a very big task for the computer. For example, in a chess match, we usually go for 1000 or 2000 moves. But for a real life problem like driving a car, or driving car in different places like plains, like mountains, real life problems like playing match with someone, In this type of conditions, we don't have 1000, 2000 or 5000 moves like a chess match. We will have lakhs of moves, lakhs of different moves with lakhs of different conditions. So in this condition, computer was not able to very fastly retrieve the data and solve the problem. So its response time was very less, very less. Its response time was not fast, so it was taking more time to solve the problem, and that's why it was later lifted and they tried to search for a new solution. So when number of search combinations increased, for example in a real life situation, when the problem became complex, the computer was not able to respond properly and within the given time. It was not able to respond fastly. So that was the problem with the computer. So in this second phase, they were trying to get a solution. This phase is usually called the dry phase in the phases of AI, because here they were not able to find any solution. So it's focused on reducing the search space, means less searching should be there, so that it will become easy for the computer to search. So either they wanted to leave the method, that is GPS, or they wanted to reduce the search space so that it becomes easy to search. So this phase, which was a dry phase, witnessed efforts made by the scientists to find better ways of representing data. What we were doing in GPS, we were representing the data in the form of mathematical models. But they now try to save the data, represent the data in some other way. Now it took time, very huge amount of money was spent and there was no result. And that is why initially there was a decline in AI research initially, because of bad publicity that AI is not able to solve the problem, it is not able to give the solution. And one more thing was there, AI was not able to give the result with that much amount of money which is spent on it. So very huge amount of money was also getting spent by the American government. So then they stopped it. After that came one breakthrough in 1982, and this breakthrough we can say started the third phase. It was part of the second phase, but it gave boost to the third phase. Japan, the government of Japan, started a project, the fifth generation computer systems project. This system project was created to develop big smart computers. These smart computers will be able to process very huge amount of data. The problem was processing time. That was a big problem. So now the scientists thought that if we will be able to develop the fifth generation computer systems, then we will be able to deploy AI based systems with them. They will be able to give the result very fast. So it again triggered the interest of the scientists and the people in the development of AI systems, because now they were able to give the result in less amount of time. This was the computer. It was not that much successful. Only 2 or 3 machines were developed. 2 or 3 fifth generation computers were developed in this program. That was the PIM M1 machine. So it was not that much successful. That time the pioneer of AI was America. America was heading the whole world in AI research. But when Japan came, so this is one very popular magazine in America. It published this article, the fifth generation artificial intelligence and Japan's computers challenge to the world. So it showed that Japan is now becoming big in AI research, and America, which was the pioneer of AI research, the Dartmouth conference was held here and so much research was held here. is now lacking. So it prompted America again to invest very huge amount of money in AI. UK also started its project in AI. So it started the third phase. In this third phase, they tried to develop a new system that will solve this problem of knowledge retrieval. Now, in the first phase, what we were doing, we were asking the computer to play the match with anyone. A person who is a expert, a person who is a simple person, who is a newbie. Everyone was playing the match with computer. So now they developed one system. They developed one system in which they were trying to get moves only from expert. If suppose a new person plays match and he takes 2000 moves, an expert will try to restrict the whole match in less time. Suppose 20 or 30 or 100 moves, he is able to play the match and win the match. So instead of going on for a simple person who is a newbie, they aimed at development of a system that will save the memory with the data of an expert. So this was the third phase. It aimed at development of intelligent knowledge based systems, IKBS. These are also known as expert systems because they take data from expert, and that is why they are called expert systems. So IKBS was developed. It solved AI problems using domain based data. For example, you want to play chess, computer wants to play chess, so it will get the data based on the domain, that is chess player. So it was totally classified. If you want to do some work on medicine, so computer will get data from the medicine domain. If computer wants to get data from a chess player, so any expert chess players data will be given to the computer to play. So it was working on data in the form of rules. There were some rules, based on that it was getting the result. For example, it wants to get data of chess players, so it will get data of chess players. So there was a rule, but there is a problem. Problem was that it was not having machine learning capability. They were not capable of learning. They were only retrieving data. The data was from an expert and they were just giving the result. So its focus was very extremely narrow. It was not able to think, not able to reason. It was just having one data placed at one place. It was just retrieving the data and using the data. Now, if you get data from an expert, you need to regularly upgrade it. Suppose new moves come. So you have to ask the expert to suggest the new moves. So it required regular upgradation, which was time consuming, very costly. You have to ask someone to come here and provide the data, and it involved a lot of research. And one thing, it was only getting data from the memory. It was not possessing common sense, thinking, reasoning. So now again the work was done by a human being. It was only getting the saved data. It was not doing it itself. Computer was not doing anything itself. It was just getting the data and it was just working on the data. So human beings are more suited for these types of jobs where computer is not thinking anything. Computer is just doing what we have asked, what we have saved in the data. So thus it was also not that much popular. So what happens in expert system or intelligent knowledge based system is that one person who is a non-expert user, suppose me who is not an expert, I want to ask something. So whatever I will ask is saved in knowledge base. And in this knowledge base, the data is taken from an expert. Suppose an expert in chess playing. So that expert was asked some questions and based on 1000, 2000, 3000 questions or the way he plays match is now saved in the knowledge base. Now based on the rules, whatever I ask for, suppose I ask for the player that is queen, okay, or king. So based on the rule that he is asking only for the king, it will try to retrieve the data. This inference engine is actually a search engine. This engine is actually a search engine which searches for the data from the knowledge base. So it gives the input in the form of question using a user interface or UI, either directly asking the question through voice or with written form, whatever form they want. They get one user interface through which they ask the question. Based on the rules, the inference engine tries to get the knowledge from the knowledge base and then after that gives the advice. So it gives the result. So it is actually a data saved somewhere. Data is taken from an expert and the expert is giving the result. So that's why IKBS is not able to think itself. It is just working on a data taken from a popular person, taken from an expert. Now what is the road ahead? Okay, we have currently only achieved narrow AI. We are not able to achieve the two other AI, that is artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence. We have currently only achieved narrow AI. Narrow AI is goal oriented, a single goal it can handle, so it can only handle one task at a time. So AI researchers have not been able to make any significant contribution as far as strong AI is concerned. We are not able to achieve strong AI up to a large extent. 10 to 20% we have achieved, but still we are lagging behind in getting strong AI. If you want to get strong AI, means if you want to make the machines conscious. Conscious means if you want to make the machine think itself, then you have to program a full set of cognitive abilities in the machine. Means abilities to learn, abilities to logic, abilities to reason. These cognitive abilities or brain based abilities are not possessed by the machines now. So these cognitive abilities are the new era on which the scientists are working to make the computers learn, think, reason like human beings. Still they are not able to do this. They are just able to retrieve the data from somewhere. Now for the development in this area, there are some projects which have been started. For example, one project is meta learning project, learning to learn. We have one algorithm that is ML, machine learning algorithm, and using that algorithm, the machine is able to learn something. In a given time, they are able to learn. So we have one more field here, meta learning under machine learning. So actually meta learning is a subfield of machine learning where we try to make the machine learn how to learn something new. So the machines may be able to continuously improve upon themselves if they are able to learn new things themselves. Then came one more project. It was a CYC project of Psycorp Incorporation. Initially it was financed by the American government. Then one more company came and the person who was creating this, he became the CEO of that company. CYC project is the first project that is aimed at creating AI systems that possess common sense reasoning. This project was written in CYCL, a new language that was developed for this project, Lisp and Subel. These are the new languages which are created especially for AI. So this has also gained some benefits, some progress they have also gained. Now we are trying to develop techniques such as neural network, where we try to use the neural network of the human beings and we are copying it to make the machines also think like human beings. Genetic algorithms, a new type of algorithm we are creating for developing the machine learning. Artificial intuition, in future might be it will be accepted. In the future might we will be able to accept artificial intuition in the future. This is the logo of the CYC knowledge project, that was the CYC project, and he was the principal scientist. Douglas Nellatt was the principal scientist who was working in Psycorp for this CYC project, and then he started his own company, that is Psycorp. So this company is totally based in creating AI systems which possess common sense. When we talk about meta learning, we talk about a very prominent scientist in the meta learning field. He has contributed so much. He is Yoshua Bengio. So this person has contributed so much in the field of meta learning.